on, guys? Welcome back. This is episode 4 of the Ultimate Pitchers Program, the off-season edition here. Just a quick little recap. We went through our assessment, we went through our strength and no-throw phases, we went through our power and our on-ramp and our velo phases here. So we're kind of getting into a phase here now. It's getting closer to baseball season. This would kind of fall into like your, around your holidays and, in through January, if you came in and got started, right after the tail end of your season, say September, October kind of time frame. So that's kind of where this fits overall in the off-season calendar. We're working into more of like the bullpen phase here. During this phase, the throwing volume is really picking up, and as I've explained in previous videos here, the strength volume kind of starts high because the throwing volume is low, and as the throwing volume increases, that strength volume kind of tapers down with it. This is kind of a unique time frame because we're early enough where the throwing volume's still a little lower at the beginning of this phase, but by the end of this phase, we'll be kind of moving into live at bats and really kind of moving into more of a maintenance phase, in the weight room. But right now, especially at the beginning, we're trying to still get a lot of progress or see a lot of progress in the weight room. You just have to really be in tune with your arm, be in tune with your body, and how it's kind of responding and reacting to the increase of throwing workload. But at the beginning here, it's a combination, like a combo effort of, trying to get the most out of our throwing and our bullpen timeframes, but strategically kind of placing some lifts in there on certain days where we can really get after it. So the lifting phase of this is going to be more of a, we call it a blend of season, where there's still some power, some baseline like strength stuff in there, but there's added core mobility and movement, range of motion type of stuff that kind of helps our body recover and get, back up on the mound feeling good. The timing of the lifts, the days of the weeks of the lifts at this point in the off season becomes super critical. This is where I usually would transition and go from like a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday split into more of, it's centering around my throwing days, right? So if I'm throwing my bullpens, today's a Friday. If I'm throwing my bullpens on Fridays during the off seasons, which is a typical schedule for a player, then my heavier lifts are coming, right after that, and the lifts kind of going into that on your, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, are kind of tapered so that I can peak on Fridays, and that really emulates like your game schedule during the season. But if right after your games is the best times to kind of get in your most aggressive lifts, so your body has as much time to recover throughout the week. That's obviously for a starter. For a reliever, it's much more fluid and dynamic, and you got to kind of roll with the punches, but you get my drift. So right now we're going to kind of go through today what the bullpen phase of the cycle of the off season looks like, and what that lifting looks like too. We're going to go through kind of a total body lift that coincides with all those things today too. So let's get it. All right, so that was the warm-up sequence. Pretty standard from day to day. The throwing stuff is kind of what changes the lifting stuff, but that whole warm-up sequence, except for the plyo balls that you guys just saw,
you know, that's every single day. The plyo balls are specific to the throwing program day. You know, today is a bullpen day, like I said in the beginning. And you know, this whole week, you know, I don't want to lose sight of what the whole week looks like. This is kind of like a Friday that we would have. I wanted to run real quick through the entire week. So on like a Monday, you know, you'd do like your side session, your kind of moderate intense like bullpen, where you're kind of working on stuff. Maybe the RPE's like a tick lower. If Friday is planned out to be our highest intensity day, so Monday would be kind of your side session day. Tuesday would be my recovery day, and Wednesday would be like a hybrid C type of day where it's kind of moderate. You're listening to your arm. You know, you're not going above like your recommended throw counts, workloads, but inside that rep range, you know, you would kind of, you know, listen to your arm and do what you need to do. If you needed to be a little bit under that you know, recommended throw count, or towards the bottom of it or towards the top of it, maybe you're feeling really good. You know, you kind of get these rep ranges in our program here that allow you to be even more individualized within it. But on that day, you know, on the hybrid C type of day, you've kind of got your moderate, you know, plyo ball routine. You know, Thursday would be, you know, another recovery day, prep day, because Friday is kind of our big day, highest intensity, highest volume day. And that's the day where we're really looking from a week to week standpoint throughout this calendar to add, you know, 15 pitchers or so each week. And then once you kind of get to the amount of pitches that you want to be at, then you kind of start programming in, you know, a certain amount of ups and downs, you know, that would simulate innings basically. So for today's like a Friday day, the high intensity day. You saw, you know, my highest intensity, you know, med ball drills, plyo ball drills. Now the heaviest long toss day is what I'm about to do. And then you know, for today specifically, this is the first Friday of this new program cycle, this new block. So I'm only going to start with 30 pitches. Typically you want to start, my arm's already built up a little bit right now, you know, so, you know, for me specifically, not wanting to go backwards, you may even introduce, you know, a 15 to 20 pitch bullpen if it's your very first bullpen of the entire off season, and slowly kind of work your way up. A good general rule of thumb is like 15 pitches every single time up, and occasionally having like a double up where you'd go 15 then 30, or, you know, 15 then 30 then 45, you know. And that's all the things that our coaches know how to do. It's all individualized based off of the athlete in here, based off the assessment information, based off of the player's injury history, arm history, and all those things. So for me today specifically, heavy long toss day, a couple compressions at the end, and then a 30 pitch bullpen. All right, that's it for the throwing portion of today. What you guys just saw would simulate like your first bullpen during the off season, and you know, for me personally, I don't know that this is the way you'd apply it for every single person, but for me personally, I've done all the work to lead up in like the intensity, you know, of what you guys saw of the, you know, the velocity phase that I just went through. So I control maybe what my pitch count is, but from the minute I get put on the mound, I'm ready to go full speed. And you know, I wouldn't say that when I was younger I did it all the same way, but the training has come so far that you know, I feel like now, having gone through that really good on ramp, really good power and velo phase, my arm's ready to go full speed as soon as I get on the mound. You know, in general, like I said, you know, a pitcher would start with, you know, 15 or so pitches the first day, all fastballs. You're just trying to take what you've been working on all off season and get it going down the mound. You know, you're starting to kind of set your sights on the catcher, your target, and you know, starting to roll into what the expectations are going to be for you during the season. So that's what I did today. That would be your first day, you know, on the mound for your bullpen sessions throughout the off season. And each time there, again, like I said, you'd add 15 or so pitches, you'd add an up, you know, whatever your goals would be. You know, as a starter, you're trying to build in pitch counts, and for relievers, you're going to build up more in like frequency. Your volume is going to come more of like high intensity days, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and starters on Fridays. You know, they're going to build innings and ups, you know, because the starter is going to be expected to throw 100 or whatever pitches, you know, during the season. So you're going to build up that way. Same way as I've been doing, you know, post bullpen, post intense throwing day. I'm gonna hit my arm care here, and then I'm gonna work into a lift. The lift, like I said, is kind of a blend, so it's gonna be a little bit, I got after it pretty good today on the mound, you know, so my lifts throughout the other parts of the week, you know, on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays are probably a little bit more intense because my throwing's not as intense. My lift on this specific day probably won't be as intense because I just spent a lot of energy, you know, doing my pre-throw and my throwing program there. Try to like to balance that workload, that volume. Like I said, you know, as the throwing volume's high, the lifting volume is kind of counteractive to that, like in response to that, and that's what I'm going to work through the rest of the day. Today I got the arm care, post throwing, and then I got, you know, a lift here still to go. So we're kind of working through this lift here, and I wanted to touch on a couple things that I feel like a couple people, you know, get wrong in this time of year. I feel like this time of year, you know, working through this cycle here, everybody's in a rush to get to this cycle. First off, no one does the, not no one, but few people do the preliminary work correctly to kind of build up to this. So that'd be my first caution or warning to you guys is, you know, take the time to do the on-ramp, do the strength cycles ahead of this. Instead of just jumping right into this, you'll build a better foundation that will help you with more longevity type of things, being able to withstand the strength for longer, decreasing your risk of injury, a lot of good things like that. That's the first thing. The second thing is, you know, this time frame is really when, like I mentioned, you know, the throwing schedule has to take over. So everything works off of the throwing schedule. When I lift is dictated by when I throw, right? So on a day like today, I'm doing a total body lift. I like to do my upper body lifting paired up on the same day as my highest intensity throwing day, because my upper body system is already kind of stressed out. So if I waited till tomorrow to do that, that'd be 2 consecutive days where I'm fatiguing my upper body. Try to maximize recovery time. That's kind of a technique that I got into as I got older. It's probably not the right thing to do for every single person. When you're younger, you have more time to recover. So that is definitely more important on like a 5-day routine for a professional type of pitcher, trying to maximize that recovery time. So look into that, to see if it's right for you. But that's what I'm doing. That's what I do in here. Like right now, through my bullpen, total body lift, the highest intensity bullpen day is typically paired with my, more moderately intense upper body day. You're seeing some like landmine press, you're seeing some rows, like I'm not maxing, I'm not doing really high rep or really high weight on any of these. It's kind of more moderate, trying to help keep the strength and the power systems operating at where I've kind of built them up to within this cycle. So that's kind of what I'm working through right now. It's a total body lift. And then like on a Saturday tomorrow, I'll come in and do more of a cardio core, explosive type of day. Just trying to move my body the day after. I'll obviously be pretty sore this time of year. Say it's late December, early January. You're pretty much sore from that time frame all the way till, through March as a pitcher. So just trying to work some of that soreness out. Typically for your recovery, movement is the best thing. People get sore and they want to just sit on the couch and watch TV and be lazy because they're sore. But really the best thing to do when you're sore is to go through your warm-up pieces of your day, go through a light, maybe body weight, maybe movement-based workout, go through a little bit more cardio or core, something to get like a good sweat going. That typically is going to make you feel better faster rather than just sitting on the couch. So those are a couple things I think that are critical for this time of year when you're implementing this cycle into your programs. I'm going to finish up the rest of my total body lift here. I got a little bit more explosive stuff here through the end, but I try to keep that stuff on a day like today, the volume of that pretty low. So
All right, that's it for the bullpen cycle here. Like I said, as you guys are building those up, you want to build up kind of carefully. Always this time of year, don't turn a 2-week problem into a 2-month problem. And what I mean by that is if something's nagging you, and you're going through late December, early January, even into February, take the time to get that thing right, and don't just rush into there because you're so eager and neglecting some of that. That's probably some of the best advice that I ever got in dealing with injuries, is especially with the season being so long, your seasons are starting in February and go until September, whether you're in high school or you're in professional baseball, because you have the spring season and you have the summer season, and you want to be able to withstand that whole season. You want to be able to maintain your strength and velocity throughout the whole year, and the general thought is don't turn a small problem into a bigger problem, because we're kind of being hard-headed, especially in this time of year. I get that if you're in May and playing for a state championship, or you've got like a promotion on the line, there's a spot open in AAA or whatever the case may be. The wrong answer is always to try to push through. But at the end of the day, you're the only one that can make that decision. No one knows how you're feeling or your body's feeling. But the general consensus is don't turn a small problem into a big problem. So this time of year, that's really important. You've worked all the way through this whole off season to build everything up. Taking a 2-week little break to kind of let your body heal, if something's kind of bothering you. Like I said, you're going to be sore. It's kind of deciphering between what's sore and what's hurt. And sometimes I know that can be challenging, a little fluid. You don't really always know the right answer. But the point is still the same. Don't turn a small problem into a bigger problem, especially in this time of year. This is going to kind of lead you all the way up through like January.
And around February is when we kind of switch over into more of our live at bats and maintenance pieces of it, where we're on a very strict like weekly routine. We're trying to emulate as much as we can of what the season's going to look like for the player as we can. Obviously trying to bridge that gap between training environment and competition. That's why the live at bats are so important. That's why the the maintenance lifting is important, and maintenance obviously meaning still trying to keep everything at the levels that we're at, and we want to take that throughout the entire year, and we'll talk more about that in the next video here. This is episode 4. The next episode will be the 5th and final episode, where we'll talk about the live at bats and the maintenance piece that you could and should kind of carry throughout the entire in-season portion of your training program. So if you guys like videos like this, be sure to comment, like, subscribe. I appreciate you guys. The only reason I'm doing any of this still, my personal pursuit of playing is past. I do all of this so that hopefully it helps kind of the younger generation of players and coaches just kind of see, what training does look like. Some of these things too, like I didn't grow up doing, I kind of came into it later into my career, and they're all things that I wish I can go back and tell like 15-year-old Brett, so advice that I'd give myself. That's kind of my motivating factor in doing any of this. If you guys have listened to the first episode of the Keep Climbing podcast, I'm sure you heard that. But that's kind of my motivating factor. So if you guys have any thoughts or questions or concerns, please drop them in the comments. Would love to talk and help you guys out. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.